What about this, though? We'll get to the biggest game of the season so far. Arguably, it is. Manchester City have the chance to cut the gap on Premier League leaders Arsenal to 2 points if they beat their rivals at the Etihad Stadium tomorrow night. City have played 2 games less and are on a 6-game winning run in the league. Let's go live to Ben Ransom. Good afternoon to you, Ben. So it is tight, isn't it, at the top of the table? Does Pep think this game is a title decider, though?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to say that this is the biggest game of the season so far, categorically. I don't think there's any argument about it. As far as Manchester City's title aspirations go, look, if they were to win against Arsenal, looking at that league table, looking at how it's going to leave the lie of the land, you'd have to say they'd be huge favourites to go on and win another Premier League title. For Arsenal, also, you feel like it is basically, if not must win, certainly must not lose if they want to have any hope of lifting the Premier League crown at the end of the campaign. Pep Guardiola has been speaking in his press conference today about what the title race means, about the rivalry with Arsenal, these final matches, and what it means to him to go into games like this that can be potentially decisive. And although we are all looking at the maths and thinking, well, for City, this is the one. If they win, they're going to be champions. For Guardiola, it's not quite that simple.
After the first leg or first round for the Premier League that Arsenal has done, it's difficult to think we were here in that moment. So it's a really important game because we can get points, and our biggest opponent this season cannot get it. But focus what you have to do. We play 2 times this season, in the past as well, but especially two times this season, and FA Cup, I think so, and it was a really tight games and really difficult. It's really important, not decisive, because there's still many tough games for both sides. We have more games to play, but we cannot deny how important it is.
So it's just important to Pep. Then you got him to respond to Arteta's claims that Arsenal will need to be perfect to win at the Etihad. What did he have to say about that, Ben?
Yeah, you can see why Mikel Arteta said that earlier, because the thought of having to come here to the Etihad and do something that Arsenal haven't done in the league for such a long time, to come here and win after, especially when you consider the way they've been playing, the way they've had this little wobble at the top, the way they've surrendered so many points that they did have in hand over Manchester City at the top of the table. You can understand why Mikel Arteta knows that his players have to be at their absolute very best. Every pass has to be perfect, was essentially the message from the Arsenal manager. Well, it's slightly different from the Manchester City manager as well. Always nice to get Pep Guardiola's views on football, the context of football. He seems to put together teams that from the eye look as though they're perfect, but they're not quite that good in his mind. And he suggests that certainly perfection in football is something that can be strived for, but not necessarily achieved.
The perfection doesn't exist in football, so you cannot be perfect and win the game. So we know, like it happened against Bayern Munich, and would happen in the future against top teams. Your standards has to be so high, because they demand the way they play and the way they have done so far against us or other teams. They demand to be really good. It's read exactly what you have to do to try to to impose our game.
So Guardiola then disagreed with Mikel Arteta, but although the pair haven't really been speaking a fantastic amount in the last few weeks and months, in fact the last time they spoke, according to Mikel, was around the previous meeting between the pair. They are close, they are friends and rivals as well. Let's not forget Mikel Arteta was here for a long time, wasn't he, working with Pep as part of that coaching staff, in particular part of the coaching staff that helped them win the Premier League in 2018 so impressively with 100 points, and then follow that up by pipping Liverpool to the title in that epic title race in 2019. They don't get to speak as often as they'd like, but they are still full of mutual respect and admiration for each other, and certainly both, I think, are looking forward to this rivalry playing out on the field tomorrow night at the Etihad.
I think the development of the club since Mikel took over Arsenal managerial career, it's obvious, so it's a reality. So at the end have to change, because I think when you talk about the word about manager, so I'm a trainer, football trainer. I'm not a manager, so I handle what happened. So I had the feeling that Mikel changed the structure of the club, mentality of the club, not just 4-3-3 or 4-2-3 or this build up or long balls or whatever. So a lot of decisions, changed a lot of players, and it was incredible being supportive, I guess, from outside. I didn't speak about this with him, supportive for the hierarchy of the club, and that's why the success is there.
Interesting, isn't it? Pep Guardiola there describing himself as a trainer, but of course he has that symbiotic relationship with people above him, his former Barcelona colleagues, in particular Jiki Begiristain, Ferran Soriano, who off the field obviously give him everything he needs to do on the field. And also, interesting point, given that Mikel Arteta's role did change, didn't it? Initially a head coach, he then had his role changed to manager. So I'd be interested to find out how Mikel describes himself. But look, it's going to be an epic showdown tomorrow night. There is no doubt about that. As far as City are concerned, team news-wise, they're in fantastic shape, aren't they? The only injury concern they've got is Nathan Ake, who limped out of that second leg against Bayern Munich in the Champions League a week ago. Remember, I spoke to him after the game in the mix zone. He said that although it was a hamstring injury, he's had it before. It wasn't quite as bad as previously he was hoping. But look, that's going to be a week or two out, so he's not expected to be fit for the game tomorrow night. Apart from that, it's a full complement, and that means that Phil Foden is ready to go as well after his appendix operation. And at this stage of the season, you can't necessarily even put a price on how important that might be to have everyone fully fit.
Yeah, you can't, can you? Thank you very much, Ben, as always.